Neanderthals were absolute freaks of nature. Type locked in, type locked in, type locked in.
Of all the human species who have walked the earth, it is perhaps the Neanderthals that people are most fascinated by. Their likeness and close relationship to us has even led some to dub them as our sister species. And even their DNA can still be found within most of us to this day.
Yeah, because people started getting it on with Neanderthals, bro. They were going to town, dude. Some of your ancestors were sleeping with Neanderthals, bro. Do you think they were thick? They were stocky as f***. I mean, we'll probably get into this. Neanderthals were short and beefy and strong, dude. They probably had some hands, man.
While dates aren't clear, it is thought that this group of archaic humans inhabited parts of Eurasia between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. Most of this time falls under the...
Yeah, and then we skill defed them and killed all of them. Yeah, that's like actually fucked that we did that. Well, I say we, but I mean Homo sapiens. Like, we fucking killed them. We killed them now. Well, we killed a lot of them, and then a lot of them just died off because we overcompeted them and they starved or shit like that. Dude, just imagine it. Imagine how, I don't want to say how bad it would be. Like, racism's bad, obviously, right? But imagine if there was a different human, right? Like a different type of human that walked the earth. Like if Neanderthals were like in your cubicle, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it wouldn't be weird if you grew up with it, but we'd put them in cages. Yeah, bro, it'd probably be pretty bad. It would be, I don't know. I think if Neanderthals lived to modern times, they would be, yeah, they probably would have been like enslaved. And then now they would be like, they would replace all like linebackers in the NFL. I don't know. It'll get into that shit, but like their physicality is crazy.
And filled with an abundance of megafauna that made life no walk in the park. Therefore, to survive and thrive in harsh conditions, Neanderthals evolved some of the most insane biology seen in any Homo species. And if alive today, some would most likely even consider them to be superhuman in a few senses. From afar, their anatomical differences to us would not be so obvious, with the likeliest contrasting feature being their height, as recovered specimens show that on average, Neanderthals were quite a bit smaller than modern humans.
Yeah. All right, Pipsqueak. All right, Pipsqueak. All right, short stack. Sitting there trying to step to me, bitch.
Typically being 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches shorter.
Got big ass eyebrow bones.
The tallest known Neanderthal specimen, dubbed a Mood 1, is believed to have been about 1.78 meters or 5 foot 10 inches tall, which really doesn't seem that tall, all things considered.
But weren't humans shorter than too? Weren't there a lot of castles that are like still around now where like the fucking arches of them are like 5'8", and you're like, why is this that short? But everybody else around then was just that short.
However, when comparing Neanderthals to European populations of 20,000,
there would be, imagine UFC fights with them. Dude, there would have to be different leagues. They would be, they're just that much stronger.
Some years ago, we find that Neanderthals were actually equally as tall and if not slightly taller. So that's...
I'm going to scan this video. That's fine. Yeah, I know. But I don't want it to like turn to like just like a random image of like them with their cock out.
It's really all to say that we don't know how tall they could have been. What's fascinating though, is that despite being shorter than modern humans, Neanderthals were quite a bit heavier, with the average male having weighed up to 83 kilograms or 183 pounds, while the females usually hovered around
like 5'6",
around 66 kilograms or 146 pounds, making them 20% heavier than the average Homo sapien. The reason behind this paradoxical sounding information is that Neanderthals had crazy robust skeletons that were much more compacted than our own, with virtually every single bone being thicker and heavier, with them sometimes even being twice the density. Their shoulders, femurs, chest, triceps, arms, and kneecaps were especially bulky.
Bro, they would be crazy in slap fights. Crazy in slap fights. They got big ass thick bones. Be sitting there, they would just tank some shit.
For all signs,
they'd be bulletproof. Well, not bulletproof.
That they were extremely powerful and muscular in life. And it is widely agreed upon that they were much stronger than us. A possible adaptation to their close quarter hunting tactics that involved them using giant spears to take down medium and large sized prey. Which
I thought that image was just saying they beat bears to death with rocks. I was gonna say, yeah, okay, they're fucking crazy. This image, dude. You're telling me a Neanderthal would just go up to a bear and just go, bah, bah, and just fucking start whacking it with a rock until it died?
Involved them using giant spears to take down medium and large sized prey, which included various rhinos, horses, elephants, and of course, woolly mammoths. which were equivalent in size to African bush elephants, and sported thick coats of fur that made it that much harder to kill them.
They killed woolly mammoths. Chat, how many with a spear, how many of you and your friends would it take to take down an elephant? Fucking 20? Oh my God. You're telling me like 5 Neanderthals would fucking rip down a woolly mammoth with just spears? What? 4? You think 4 of your friends, 4, you could kill a 5,000-pound elephant with spears? It would murder you. It would step on you.
And speaking of African bush elephants,
Just me? Bro, I feel like I would need like 30 people. Because if you stab it, it's not doing shit. They're so big, it'd be like getting a paper cut.
this widespread and presumably lifelong use of these spears is also what some researchers partially believe led to the distinct Popeye-like arms seen in many Neanderthal specimens that would have allowed them to wield weapons with ferocious intensity. The well-defined nature
Wow, so they used spears that long that their fucking biology changed so they could be stronger with stabbing things.
of their arms and overall muscular build was possibly also a sign of extreme levels of hormones, according to at least one study. Specifically,
Damn, they were natural roid heads.
researchers believe that Neanderthals were naturally pumped up with large amounts of hormones that added to their increased muscle mass and provided them with the ability to pull off some pretty crazy feats of strength, such as lugging up to 50 pounds or 27 kilograms of meat for 30 miles or 48 kilometers.
30 miles? Wait, in a day? In a day, they would walk 30 miles with a fucking deer on their back? There's no way. That's fucking probably barefoot.
The same distance as walking 138 laps around a soccer field.
Oh!
What's more is that thanks to their larger chests, shoulders, and triceps, scientists assume that Neanderthals would have been pretty great wrestlers and powerlifters if still around, with males possibly being able to bench press 500 pounds or 200 kilograms without training.
What? What? Without, they don't even have to go to the gym? They just fucking, they're starting out bench press is 500 pounds. There's no way. How did they die to us? Just because we were smarter? Bro, that doesn't make any sense. They would be able to bench press 500 pounds, no training. Like, just step in the gym.
While the females could have done 350 pounds or
What? Oh my God. The women would bench 350 casual. 350 casual. What the fuck?
For a little bit of context, just 2/3 of this weight would have been considered elite levels by our own standard.
Bro, yeah, man. Fucking 500 pounds. There's probably like 4 people in this chat that could bench 500.
Short, bulky builds played a big role in this strength too. But it wasn't only power.
Maybe less. There's probably like 2 people in this chat that could bench 500.
In fact, a systemic analysis on recovered skeletons found that between 79 and 94% showed signs of extreme trauma that had fully healed. These injuries ranged from blunt force
Wow, so they would get like fucked up and live.
fractures all the way to traumatic amputations, with a
What? They would amputate their limbs?
particularly gruesome case involving an elderly Neanderthal, who during his younger years had lost his right arm, damaged his left clavicle, was smashed so badly in the face that he was blinded in one eye, and had ears so banged up that the ear canals themselves were shut off by new bony material that had grown after repeated injury, rendering him deaf in both ears.
How did he live? How did he live? I don't understand that shit. Bro, not even this. If he's deaf, missing a hand, blind in one eye, and his shoulders fucked up, and he lived till old age.
As nearly 74% of Neanderthals
Well, didn't they live in Europe? What would be modern day Europe? Like Nordic areas. Eurasia, Portugal, Wales, and Siberian mountains. So Europe. Like the edge of Russia. Like all the way through like Turkey. Like Europe. Literally Europe. They lived in Europe.
based on one study, reflected evidence of having survived violent animal encounters,
Wow.
with 21% having been with big cats, 17% with wolves, and
They survived getting mauled by a lion?
36% with bears.
Bro, I'm getting more and more shocked right now as this video's going on. 36% of them would live a bear attack, or 36% of the bones recovered were from bear attacks.
The most hardcore part of all of this is that scientists do not think that these animal attacks were predation attempts. Rather the opposite. that the animals had been defending themselves during Neanderthal attacks. Talk about hardcore. And to really drive this home,
So they were hunting bears. They hunted bears.
even their skin was designed for battle, as genes found in Neanderthals are associated with thickened skin, nails, and hair that theoretically help them cope with getting banged up and enduring the cold. And yet another adaptation that seemed to benefit their rough lifestyle were large joints that allowed them to perform strenuous movement that would have been extremely hard or nearly impossible for a Homo sapien to do. And while not necessarily larger, Neanderthal hands were also much different from our own, with their fingertips being broader and their thumbs sticking out at a much wider angle, which likely affected the way
They didn't have those liberal hands, chat. They didn't have those weak. They had those worker hands, tough hands, right? Not those soft liberal hands. The ones that are, skinny and weak.
And to some, their hand shape possibly meant a reduction in precision capabilities, which they made up for, though, by powerfully gripping their items and weapons. So clearly, Neanderthals were absolute units on the outside. But
So they weren't accurate. They were just like brutish.
they were pretty crazy on the inside, too, with one of the more obvious signs being their barreled chests, which accommodated a wider ribcage and larger lungs, with studies finding that on average, Neanderthals had a lung capacity 20% greater than our own. Yet, this number widely varies, and some exceptional Neanderthals have us beaten even more badly in this area, as best demonstrated by Kabara 2, a male whose lungs can most likely hold 9 liters of air, which is 40% greater than the capacity of the average modern man's lungs. And to make this even more impressive, keep in mind that until recently, the largest lung capacity ever recorded in an athlete was only 8.5 liters. Neanderthals' noses further supported this notion that they gobbled up air, as they were quite long and wide, which helped them move air faster, as in 100% faster.
Big ass nose, motherfucker. Big ass nostril ass motherfucker. Gotta breathe in air, stealing all the air ass motherfucker. Taking all the air. We need some oxygen for ourselves, pal. That's why they got rid of him. That's why the Homo sapien. That's why we killed him off, chat. We were worried that they were gonna take all the oxygen from us. That's racist. Do you mean speciesist? I'm making fun of Neanderthals, chat. Are we detaching from reality right now? Somebody just said racist.
Since animals who do live in the cold, Neanderthals included, typically evolve faster metabolic.
Yeah, it's actually racist to say that's racist because you're making assumptions about other races from the things that I've said about a different species of human. So flip it on you.
To compensate for the rate of heat loss that they experience. This is then, of course, reflected by their energy requirements as well. As in the case of Neanderthals, it's believed that an individual needed between 4,500 and 6,700 calories every single day.
Wow.
So, if they were still alive, you could expect food items to have 2 completely separate nutrition labels, distinguishing between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. The bulky nature of their noses
So they eat over twice as much as us.
seems to have helped directly with the cold as well,
Damn, that's definitely why they also died off. Is because if they weren't able to get the food every day.
since more room in the nasal cavity would have helped to heat and humidify the cold, dry air that was coming in. Now, because Neanderthals breathed like champs, you may be thinking that they were exceptional long-distance runners, who could tire their prey to complete exhaustion, much like what is seen in modern humans. However, on the contrary, Neanderthals were surprisingly poor endurance animals, who were instead built for bursts of speed. There's actually more than one biological trait that points to this. One example being their toes, which were fairly long and wide, allowing them to stay in contact with the floor for a longer period, and thus
Wow, there'd be a lot of Neanderthals on Feet Finder.
allowing them to generate more power and faster starts. Not to mention that their leg bones were quite short, something that's not usually seen in endurance athletes of today, who typically have longer legs to increase each stride. Even their Achilles tendons were not designed for distance, having been long and narrow, making them not the best at storing energy needed for longer runs. And this is once again in contrary to endurance
So they would just walk and sprint.
athletes, who almost always have stiff, short, and wide Achilles tendons. And yet, while their lower extremities were the most blatant signs of speed over stamina, the true proof in the pudding came from something unseen to the naked eye: their muscle fibers. As you may know, especially if you've done a 23andMe, humans have differing types of muscle fibers
Bro, I want to do one of those so bad.
that each specialize in a certain level of power generation to stamina ratio. For example, someone can have a higher ratio of fast twitch or slow twitch muscle fibers, the former of which helps to generate bursts of energy, while the latter can possibly help people perform better and longer lasting activities, such as endurance running. In modern humans, these fibers are mixed, and this was also the case in Neanderthals, but they typically had a way higher concentration of these fast twitch muscle fibers than we do, a likely
So they would be really good sprinters.
adaptation for their hunting style, which required quick bursts of speed to get close and personal with their prey. This also means that if for whatever reason if Neanderthals came back, be sure to challenge one to a marathon instead of a sprint, to at least give yourself the best shot of winning.
Yeah, now I gotta Google what their fucking 100 time would be. They were way more physically powerful and faster, but would get tired much quicker. But that doesn't tell me how fast they would run. They would be a really good, or decent sprinter, but horrible at long distance. So they would be like the best running back in the NFL, chat.
All this power and speed no doubt gave them quite a lot of brawn, but interestingly enough, they were also
Mr. B should have had a Neanderthal race Noah Lyles.
a lot of brain as well, as they had freakishly large brain cases.
We've brought a Neanderthal back to life. We have made them unextinct with the power of science for the sole purpose of racing Noah Lyles, and then we're gonna kill it again.
On average, the male brain cases tended to be 1,640 cubic centimeters, and in the woman, it was usually around 1,460 cubic centimeters, which makes them about 30% bigger than what's seen in contemporary humans. Now, pure size alone does not paint the full story of intelligence, but their huge brains were a good sign that they were at least far more intelligent than first thought. And today, it's widely believed that Neanderthals could perform a whole host of complex tasks, such as coordinating hunts, making tools, creating arts, taking exceptional care of the sick, and, of course, communicating.
But in what? Like language or like grunts and shit?
Despite the size of their brains, researchers do not necessarily think that Neanderthals had superior mental prowess compared to us, as their brains were also structurally different than ours, having a more circular bomb-like shape that had to operate a large body, and devoted larger areas to certain senses, such as smell. Also had
They made him look like a claymation figure, dude. That shit is just, that's a diss.
unusually big eyes, which would have required much more brain power to process what they were seeing. Of course, though, no one has ever found an intact Neanderthal eye, but based on the size and
That's not racist, chat. Oh my god, you guys are fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro. You're gaslighting. I'm ignoring you.
it is estimated that they were about 15% larger than our own, which would have helped them see a lot better and sharper than we do, while also giving them better night vision. These eyes, in conjunction with their big brains and large noses, gave Neanderthals some pretty sizable heads and skulls that might have led to their sturdy thick necks,
God.
seeing that they had to be able to support such giant noggins. Furthermore, their heads, relative to ours, were not just bigger, but more elongated and forward projecting as well. And unsurprisingly, their other facial features were supersized too, including the jaw and teeth. It was originally thought that their thick wide jaws and sturdy chompers were an indication of an insane bite force that would have let them gnaw on bones, tough meat, and a variety
Ew.
of abrasive foods. However, subsequent studies revealed a bite force
Like bite through bones?
not far from our own, with it being comparable to the bites seen in the upper range of modern humans, and would have registered at around 700 newtons. So that's to say, while it would hurt a lot to be bit, it would most likely not cause any catastrophic wounds, at least most of the time. This does call into question though, why did they have such large mouths and teeth if not for a strong bite? And one interesting idea claims that the answer is that the jaw was simply widened in order to accommodate the teeth themselves, which had essentially evolved to be a third hand. To be exact, a group of researchers believe that Neanderthals would have
Oh, they would hold shit with their teeth so they were able to fucking... Yeah, I've heard about that. Where they would have markings. They would have like teeth markings on leather because they would scrape... They would like hold it with their mouth so they could do two different things at once. What do you think they did for entertainment? Had sex. And threw rocks at shit. That's it. That's not even like... I'm not even trying to be like funny when I say that. Like, what else would they do? Cave paintings, maybe, like very, very rudimentary cave paintings. Like a lot of that. That's why, I mean, Neanderthals probably had less free time than humans. because the caloric intake humans needed was less than Neanderthals. So a lot of it was probably just spent eating, cooking, and fucking hunting. But even then, if they had like cave paintings and base stuff like that, like that's kind of just how knowledge, you could see how knowledge transitions through human and Homo sapien history through cave paintings, where they originally paint like animals and other things that they see, and then they start painting themselves and their family, and they paint the outlines of their hands and stuff like that, kind of recognizing a sense of self as well. But even then, Homo sapiens would have more time to do that. I'm guessing off of the fact that they're saying that Neanderthals would have to eat upwards of 5,000-6,000 calories a day. They were probably just hunting and eating and sleeping, like a lot.
Being grippy in structure and nature, Neanderthal dentition have wear and
What would happen if 3,000 of them invaded Earth? Nothing.
tear patterns.
Like modern, like would they have like Neanderthal brains like from then? If they were raised by humans, I think they would be more functionally capable. But if you just dropped like historic Neanderthals on Earth, we would probably just kill them or capture them and experiment on them, because they wouldn't be able to talk to us. They would feel like we were a threat. Right? But if you were able to raise like a baby Neanderthal to a human, or not to, by a human, right, it would be somewhat functional, I would assume. I would assume it would have the capability to speak very basically.
You may be wondering what impact this has on you if you're one of the many with Neanderthal DNA. For example, if it means super strength or a voracious appetite for meat. Well, simply put, nearly every study on the matter so far has not yielded any significant results. And most maintain that Neanderthal DNA usually only has subtle effects on athletic feats and physical appearances. Although, there is a growing list of studies that suggest that their DNA may have had greater impacts on our internal systems than we once thought. That being said, many of these studies have conflicted with each other, and there is a lot of disagreement in general on just how impactful Neanderthal DNA really is. But what no one is in disagreement with is just how amazing these extinct humans were. Thanks for watching.
That was a amazing video. We need to watch some other shit from them. If you have any other videos from Extinct to do, or videos you want me to watch, games you want to play in general, videos /games/tab. So I find most of the videos to watch games I play next.